Ah, love. It can be beautiful, it can be gut-wrenching, and it can be very, very weird. From a woman who married a ghost to identical twins marrying identical twins, it's safe to say Cupid's arrow can strike just about anywhere. So, grab yourself a box of chocolates and set the lights down low because we're about to check out some of the craziest couples that prove love truly is blind. Twinsanity. There's no denying that identical twins often look astonishingly similar. Because of this, sometimes they'll go out of their way to differentiate themselves from one another. However, in the case of Virginian twins Brittany and Brianna Dean, this couldn't be further from the truth. You see, Brittany and Brianna have lived their entire lives trying to be as alike as possible. They got their driving licenses together, graduated together, and wear matching outfits every day. The two sisters are so close that for a long time, they'd resent any boyfriend the other got because the guys never understood their twin thing. Who they really wanted a relationship with was another set of identical twins. But that would be impossible, right? Wrong. At the 2017 Twins Days Festival in Twinsburg, Ohio, everything changed. The festival is the largest annual gathering of twins in the world and attracts up to 30,000 sociable siblings a year. Brittany and Brianna had been attending since 2011, and at one of the festival's welcoming events back in 2017, Brittany spotted a couple of twin brothers that she just couldn't ignore. Grabbing Brianna's wrist, she pointed out the two dashing men. As if they'd been struck by the same Cupid's arrow, both sisters were obsessed. The sets of twins got talking, and before long, the brothers, Josh and Jeremy Saliers, realized they were interested too. So much so that after the festival, the Saliers made the journey up to see them from Tennessee. One amazing trip and several dates later, Josh and Jeremy knew they were going to propose. It turns out, they'd always wanted to get married to another pair of twins, just like the girls. So, wasting no time, the Saliers brothers invited Brianna and Brittany to the Twin Lakes State Park in Virginia, the same place they'd had their first joint date. They told the sisters that a wedding venue on-site wanted to feature them all in a commercial, so they should wear matching dresses. They didn't tell them that they'd actually be proposing to them and getting down on one knee at exactly the same time. If you hadn't guessed, the delighted sisters accepted Brittany with Josh and Brianna with Jeremy. And just a year after they met, the four of them got married in one of the craziest wedding ceremonies ever seen. It took place at the festival where it all began, so almost everybody there was also twins. They were married by twin ministers, the bride's dresses were held by twin train-bearers, and the bridesmaids were all twin sisters. Man, it looks like the entire thing took place in a house of mirrors. But this twinsane story doesn't end there. After their special day, the four newlyweds bought a house together so they could all live under one roof. By having a baby boy each within just 3 months of one another, their families became even more intertwined. And as if all this wasn't weird enough, although the kids are legally cousins, they're genetically more like, well, you guessed it, twins. Or, to use the technical term, quaternary twins. Oh geez, this is twinception. So, what do you think of this extraordinary family? Is their love story a fairy tale come true or a fever dream you can't wake up from? Let me know down in the comments below. But before you do, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. That way, you'll never miss any of my amazing new content again, and I'm always uploading fascinating videos for you. Okay, ready for some more crazy couples? Well, let's continue then. Enamored Anam. What do you look for in the perfect partner? For Indonesian Khairul Anam, it's somebody who's fair, obedient, loving, and good at cooking. And it just so happens he found all of these qualities in one lucky person, or, should I say, one lucky rice cooker. Yep, you heard that correctly. Anam bought the machine in 2021 and became so infatuated with his purchase that he genuinely decided to tie the knot with it. Marriage papers were signed, hands shaken, and the cooker looked truly beautiful in its bridal shawl. I mean, just look at how happy Anam is, and no wonder he just had the kiss of his life. Sadly, this particular love story was cut short just 4 days after the marriage. Why? Well, Anam was sick of eating just rice and quickly divorced the cooker. Determined to carry on his crusade for love though, Anam quickly found a new partner, and well, this one can't even cook rice. Yep, that's an utterly terrifying life-sized mannequin. Fortunately for my soul, it turns out Anam's actually a small-time celebrity in Indonesia, known for pulling pranks and posting them online to his followers. Okay, faith in humanity slightly restored. Love bites. Love is a powerful thing. Once it latches onto you, it digs its teeth in deep and doesn't let go, kind of like a vampire, or like Logan and Daily South, the self-proclaimed king and queen of the vampire court of Austin, Texas. This creepy couple says they didn't choose to be vampires but were born with the vampire gene. Okay, so far, so weird. But what is this vampire court, you ask? Well, the couple claims that real-life vampires uphold their own set of laws and traditions, decided in democratic courts, and Logan and Daly lead the Austin branch. They state that there are 50,000 other vampires like them in the US alone and that vampiric communities exist in every major city across the states. But before you rush out and buy a load of garlic and wooden stakes, the vampires that Logan and Daly associate with aren't the kind that go around nibbling on people's necks. Oh no, they're much too civilized for that. Logan and Daly operate on a strictly consensual basis, only feeding on willing volunteers. So, if you fancy becoming a living battery, give them a buzz. But wait a minute, aren't vampires supposed to lack reflections? Even so, this is still a better love story than Twilight. Little and large. Let's be real, everybody loves a bit of drama. But if Kim and Kanye's relationship wasn't wild enough for you, then you might want to know about their African equivalent, Grand P and Eudoxie Yao. Grand P, a Guinean rapper and business tycoon, suffers from progeria, a rare disorder that stunts a person's growth and leads to rapid aging. Because of this, despite being almost 30, he appears to be much younger. Eudoxie, however, doesn't care, and the social media influencer turned musician has fiercely batted off criticism that the pair are only together for the publicity. As well as fighting off their critics, the unconventional couple also aspires to fight their way up the political ladder. Grand P has run for the Guinea presidency before, and though he wasn't successful that time, he remains determined. A pop-lexing proposal. Finding love can be hard, but for 49-year-old British model Elizabeth Hoad, it seemed genuinely impossible. After 4 failed engagements and 221 bad dates, Elizabeth was all but ready to give up. And give up she did, but only on humans. Dogs, on the other hand? Well, that's a different story. In 2018, Elizabeth adopted a golden retriever called Logan Humphrey, and she says the close bond they developed together healed her in a way she'd never expected. As such, there was only one thing for it: to marry him on live TV. Following an interview on the British chat show This Morning, Elizabeth was walked down the aisle by television presenter Eamon Holmes. Once there, she took her position in front of her beloved Logan, and the ceremony was officiated by another presenter. Elizabeth said her vows, and Logan, well, I'm sure he would have too, had he been able to speak English. The dog even got his own special wedding bracelet in place of a ring. And a kiss to seal the deal, of course. The marriage wasn't legally recognized, but for Elizabeth and Logan, that really doesn't matter, they're as happy as a dog with 2 tails. Ravishing reptile. Well, if you thought marrying your dog was kooky, strap yourselves in because things are about to get a whole lot freakier. Back in 2015, 27-year-old Indian Sundeep Patel became convinced that he had found the love of his life. Only, it turns out, the love of his life was a cobra. You see, Sundeep believed he was an Itchadhari Nag, a mythical shapeshifting cobra in Indian folklore, capable of taking human form and living far longer than an ordinary person. Sundeep said he would go into a deep trance at night, become a snake, and slither off to spend quality time with his serpentine love. So sure was Sundeep of his unique romance that he proposed to the snake and even managed to persuade his family to help prepare the wedding. They handed out flyers advertising the event, and within 2 weeks, about 15,000 eager guests had all committed to attend. The big day came, and in a temple in the remote village of Badwapar, the ceremony began. The snake and man faced each other as a Hindu priest started the sermons. However, halfway through proceedings, all hell broke loose. Suddenly, just as Sundeep was set to wed his cobra bride, police burst through the temple doors. The priest immediately bolted from the scene, and within seconds, chaos erupted. So, what the sneck happened? Well, it turns out that Sundeep wasn't actually a shapeshifting snake but unfortunately suffered from mental difficulties. He had been treated in a psychiatric institution sometime before and was on the authorities' watch list. Thus, when they heard about the wedding, they were quick to act. Luckily for Sandeep, it wasn't long before he was released from custody and sent to a relative's house. But what a story he left behind, definitely one for the his storybooks. If you saw these two walking toward you on a dark night, you'd be more than a little worried. However, you shouldn't be. They might look like aliens or demons, but Hannah Rose Dalton and Stephen Raj Bhaskaran are actually highly talented fashion designers. The couple first met at their design school in Montreal in 2014, though they looked very different at the time. After talking, they realized they shared the same concerns. Both also felt oppressed, albeit in different ways. Hannah felt like her identity was stifled by restrictive clothes that society compelled her to wear, while Stephen, who was non-binary, had suffered from racism and discrimination his whole life. In an act of defiance, Hannah gave away her old clothes and the two began rejecting conventional ideas of beauty to oppose what they saw as a corrupt system. Objects of affection. We all get attached to objects that hold meaning for us. I, for example, had a Toy Story doll that I slept with for longer than I care to admit. However, Amanda Liberty from Leeds in the UK took things to an entirely new level. She first awakened to these feelings at the age of 13, and I mean big, like Statue of Liberty big. She became infatuated with the giant statue and made a total of 6 trips all the way to New York to see her copper love. Most teenagers have their favorite bands plastered over their walls, but not Amanda. The love-struck girl covered her whole house head to toe in Statue of Liberty memorabilia and even went as far as to change her surname to Liberty in 2010. Sadly, the long distance took its toll on the relationship, and Amanda had to cut ties with the affectionately nicknamed Libby. Now approaching 40, she has turned her attention to something more feasible, chandeliers, and is planning to marry her favorite. Ghosted. When you're messaging your crush, being ghosted is one of the worst feelings. But for Amanda Large-Teague from Belfast, Ireland, it felt amazing. That's because she fell in love with a literal ghost. One day back in 2014, Amanda was meditating at home when she felt a strange presence in the room with her. Annoyed at the rude interruption, she told it to leave her alone. And, though it left at first, it wasn't long before the presence returned. Losing her patience, Amanda resigned herself to speak with it and found out it was actually the ghost of a 300-year-old Haitian pirate named Jack Teague, the same pirate Captain Jack Sparrow was supposedly based on. After a few months, Amanda and Jack's relationship blossomed, and they started dating. She literally became his boo. Later, in July 2016, Amanda decided to tie the knot with Jack on a boat in the Atlantic Ocean. Without a physical body to wed, however, Amanda instead brought along, wait for it, a painting of Captain Jack Sparrow. I guess that meant more cake for her. But as the relationship went on, Amanda began to notice things going wrong. She grew increasingly ill, and following a near-fatal bout of sepsis in 2018, she had the horrifying realization that Jack was behind it. Her once loving spirit spouse had turned against her. Apparently, he had become an energy vampire, sucking the life force from Amanda in an attempt to possess her and live again. That's a pretty big red flag if I ever saw one. With nowhere else to turn, Amanda desperately enlisted the help of a priest and had an exorcism to expel the malicious spirit from her body. Thankfully, everything went according to plan, and it was a whole lot cheaper than getting a divorce. The lesson here? Whatever you do, don't fall in love with a 300-year-old ghost pirate energy vampire. The Darger family. You can never have too much of a good thing, right? That's certainly the motto Joe Darger from Utah lives by. Joe isn't married to just one girl, he's not even married to 2. No, Joe's tied the knot with 3 different women. And are you ready for the craziest part? They're all related. That's right, twin sisters Vicky and Valerie are both in love with the same man their cousin Alina is. So, what gives? Well, the family are fundamentalist Mormons, and as such, they are believers in plural marriage, that is, marriage involving multiple partners. Joe started dating Vicky and Alina first, back when they were still teenagers. In 1990, the trio held a Mormon marriage ceremony together. However, because the state of Utah doesn't lawfully recognize polygamous marriage, the following day, Joe married Alina again legally. Later, Vicky suggested that Joe marry her twin sister too, who had just come out of a divorce. At first, Joe was pretty weirded out by the thought of being in a relationship with twins, not that he found dating cousins odd. In the end, however, he buckled, and in 2010, he married Valerie as well. Now, they all live together under one roof with their 25 children. Phew! That's just about all the wild relationships we've got time for. Do you know anyone with an even crazier love story than these guys? Let me know down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.